big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. As always, we continue our focus on the COVID-19 impact in programming, but today is slightly different. We're going to look at digital advertising per se in India and how that's evolved. We're going to look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and also look at the COVID-19 impact on digital advertising per se. To do that, I have with me four very, very knowledgeable guests. And without any further ado, let me deep dive and introduce you to my panel. I have with me Dolly Jha of Neilsen, Vikram Sakhuja from Madison, Anil Viswanathan from Mondelez, and Shuvadip Banerjee from ITC. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Truly a pleasure having you on Brand Equity. So first things first, before I look at the nitty-gritties, if I had to ask the panel to look at digital advertising in the context of the last 1 year and give me your broad headline views on what has worked effectively and what has not, what would that be? I'd like to start with the two advertisers on the panel before I go to Vikram and Dolly. So I'll throw it to you first, Anil, on your headline thoughts.
I think what we've seen, it's almost been an ongoing journey for 2 years now, where there's been a dramatic increase in scale of the number of users who are coming onto the platforms, across platforms, and consuming content, interacting with each other on digital. And hence, as a result of that, what we are seeing is a dramatic increase in the role of the digital medium as part of driving reach for our brands. As you know, from a Mondelez perspective, we have large brands, and hence our need is to get to scale. And we are seeing our advertising agency partners and media agency partners really advocating digital as an integral part of our media vehicles for our advertising campaigns. So that's really the first bit, which is really reach. I think the second thing is the emergence of several interesting new platforms and a constant evolution of new products, which are really forcing us as advertisers to think differently and think platform out rather than brand out in the way we engage with our consumers. Very, very interesting platforms like TikTok, the rise of OTT, the rise of regional platforms. All of that is making the medium immensely dynamic.
If I take it to you, Shuvadip, he's discussed, really the kind of burst we've seen in terms of platforms, and he's talking about looking at it from a platform out angle and not just a brand out angle. If I had to ask you to take that commentary forward in terms of your evaluation of the medium per se, there's lots happening, lots is being said, there's a lot of commentary we're hearing not only within India but even globally on the efficacy of the medium. Your headline thoughts if I asked you to just look at the 1 year window.
Every platform has a role to play. So let's say when we say television and when we are advertising on television, you always measure for the obvious, saliency, brand values, message, stuff like that. But when it comes to digital, we go platform in to understand what should be the measure, what should be the effectiveness that we should be measuring for from the business and for the brand standpoint. So if let's say it's social, do I measure only saliency of the brand? Versus let's say if it's food and Instagram, then do I also look for what kind of brand values is it building? Influencer program, for example, is a big digital program that's rightly on. And do you really look for saliency building through these communities or the influencer that you utilize? No, it is more about what it does to the brand in terms of imagery, what it does in terms of building brand love. So there are, and all of these actually do work, and they work very, very effectively across platforms. However, the jury is still out as far as things like equivalence is concerned. And we keep debating this point, that if you have a spot on television and you have reached a person on television and you have reached a person on YouTube, do you find that they are equally impacted? I think the jury is still out on that with every day. And in fact, there has been some very interesting developments that have happened in the recent past, especially of this unfortunate event that has happened. The seek out behavior of people have increased significantly, and hence brand owners have become publishers. And we feel that this is a start of a phenomena where brand owners are likely to become more and more playing a bigger role as far as publishing of content is concerned. And you will have different kinds of efficacies that will be measured then.
Okay, fair enough. That's very insightful. Let me take it to you, Dolly, and I really will come back to the efficacy bit in some time. But before that, I believe the Nielsen recent report that you've actually compiled states that there is no longer an urban-rural divide, and for the first time, you're actually claiming that rural users are higher than urban, and that, of course, poses a huge opportunity, and that's your claim. My question is, A, could you shed light on how you've arrived at that? And B, when you say that rural users are higher than urban, what is the quality of engagement you would say, rural versus urban?
Now, what that report essentially says is that if you look at the overall internet penetration in the country, that's at about 40%. That's what we quoted in that report. The urban penetration is upwards of 50%, and rural penetration is about 32%. Okay. Now, what happens is that because you have a large universe base in rural, in terms of sheer numbers, for the first time we have rural numbers actually surging ahead of urban numbers. Okay. So those are the facts really. Yes, it really creates a huge opportunity, right? Because from all the planning and all the targeting, especially on digital, which has been targeted to urban audiences, a lot of work will really need to be done to really shift to also bring in the rural audience in the fold. Now, coming to engagement of audiences, I think I will have to be very candid here, which is that there is enough and more work which is being done in terms of how engaged are the audience on digital medium when it comes to urban audiences. Okay, there are all kinds of experiments which are happening. There is work around resonance, there is work around effectiveness, all the way up to measuring, what is the impact of digital campaigns on sales uplift and things like that. But that is all confined to urban audiences.
That's an interesting insight. Vikram, if I can bring you in at this point, let's just talk about ad spends. Now, earlier in the year, before this, unfortunate incident took us all by storm and we all got grounded, we had 3 reports that came out from Madison, Dan and Group M, all of which gave us, different views and predictions on digital advertising per se and how that escalation would happen. So if I had to ask you to put on your Madison hat and tell me in terms of your predictions of if those predictions made by players such as you stand, and if not, what would you, bet on in terms of the revised figures for the year 2020, given the situation we are currently facing?
Thanks, Sonali. If you allow me to just back up for a second, I think it's important to see why digital was actually the engine of growth in 2019 and why we were actually being bullish about it in 2020 as well before COVID. Entire 2019, it grew 30%. It got about to a 23 share of AdX on the back of growth in video, social, search and display. All 4, but the ones that really were the drive growth engines and will continue to be will be video and increasingly programmatic. So these 2 words, video and programmatic, to my mind, are going to be the real stuff that is going to help us grow more in this year. Now, of course, the entire slowdown has happened because of COVID and digital is no exception. But as we stand right now, will it come down from 30? Will it be 0? I don't think so. I think in digital will definitely get growth. But what is going to determine growth is really going to be how we actually tackle 4 factors. And these 4 factors are, number 1, measurement. The currency of measurement is not there right now, and that should be. Number 2 is this. Right now we seem to be having a duopoly with really 2 major giants controlling 60-65% of the spend. Will it get more democratic? Similarly, and very closely linked, all of them interconnected, is this entire piece about data. Will we be living behind walled gardens of these monopolies, or will there be a digital democracy that actually programmatic allows? And fourth, content is going to grow with video, but do we have an ecosystem which is actually helping it grow, or is it still in the cottage industry stage? If you've got good answers to these four, I can actually offer you a pretty bullish prognosis for 2021. I mean, take a look at Nielsen's own research. They're saying about 30% of the campaigns which were supposed to be targeted were off target. I mean, that is just a small part of it. It also if you have to look at cross media reach and deduplication, I mean, it's very interesting. I was talking to Dolly and her team. It seems that from the campaigns which they did, most of them don't even get reach of more than 20% on digital. You do less than 50 million impressions and less than 20% reach. So to me, certain parts are, even though digital is so advanced, certain aspects of it are very prehistoric.
Let me take it to Shuvadip and get your views on, how that mix has changed for you during COVID-19. The jury's still out on whether we're actually seeing, ROI in terms of money invested versus actual engagement. So impressions versus real audience engagement. What's your take on that, and what's your stance as ITC?
There was struggle at the supply chain end, we all are aware of. But what we realized is that we need to be salient. We need to keep engaging with our consumers, whether it's on television or it's on digital medium. What actually happened was, you are right that a lot more viewers on television, and there were not many fresh content, but there were eyeballs, and we needed to have our advertisement there. And because there were so many people and there was a demand supply shift, we were lucky, and the costs actually helped us stay afloat with a lot more GRPs at that point in time. However, that was more broadcasting, that is one to many, as we understand. What we did on digital was very different, and we saw this huge surge on recipe searches and people looking for nutrition products, and we have seen many such reports, right? As all of us have seen that. Now, what we did was we started to capitalize that and started engaging with consumers. Let's say an Ashirwad started to do a lot of recipe content. A Dark Fantasy started to do a lot of recipe contents with milkshakes and various kinds of other desserts that it constructed. Recently we did this and continues to happen. There's this 5-star kitchen with the entire Star Network and OTT platform. But yes, you were hinting upon a point of cost and cost efficacies. Vikram also pointed that point out. Just take an example. See, even a best case situation, 600 plus million people on television, 320, 30 odd take here and there, plus million people on video content on digital. So it's still 0.5x, right, or 2x, whichever way you want to look at it. Costs are not that proportionate. It's still, if you really look at cost per thousand or whichever cost per reach, digital still continues to be a little more expensive than for an FMCG brand than a television. And the biggest challenge, actually Vikram stoked a lot of fire. In fact, the biggest challenge is to have a common platform to plan and activate your media plans. That's where the efficiency and optimization lies, and that's where I think we need everybody, all publishers, to come together. As advertisers, we want and we wish and we hope and we will keep pushing for this entire idea of a common platform of measurement, or else we will keep wasting on frequency. The same person reached out with the content on television, you again reached out to that person on Facebook, again the same person on YouTube. So you keep doing that, and definitely, not maybe, it's definitely non-optimized, and you're spending more than you're supposed to.
Dolly, let me bring it to you. I mean, do you think publishers are really having a problem with, offering themselves and being open to measurement? I mean, I would think otherwise.
So, Sonali, what I would say is that there has been a sea change with respect to publishers' willingness to come in the ambit of measurement. So, if I was asked this question about 2 years back, I would agree with what you are saying, right? That there is reluctance on part of certain publishers to come in the ambit of measurement. I would say that today, we measure about 60 platforms. Okay, that's a big number, including the big ones. Okay, so publishers have actually come forward and they are willing to be measured.
Okay, Vikram, are you in agreement that everybody is on board and that everybody is working towards common metric? And if that is the case, then what's the problem? Why aren't we rolling with it?
I think there was about 4 years. 4 years, a common metric was being attempted with BARC and ACOM, but the powers that be out there sort of didn't let it happen. Now, I think let's put things in perspective to see who's holding it back and in whose interest it is. Now, look at the campaigns. You shared that data which Nielsen had done of 1,500 campaigns which had been analyzed. So if 60% of the campaigns, okay, fine, you have YouTube and you have the Google entire network. So basically Google with YouTube as well as Facebook, each independently can actually give you great reach. But when people are actually practicing a particular campaign, they are just the campaign and the impressions which they're actually doing is getting less than 10% reach. Now in a TV kind of plan, as a matter of course, campaigns run with 70, 100 channels and you reach 70% reach, you reach 80% reach and even reach 50% reach at 5x frequency and all that. But in digital, for some reason, people are just taking two platforms. Nielsen study showed the one-off thing, if you take 15 platforms, it jumps up to 45% reach. Now, is very basic, right? But why are people not doing it? At one level, because the measurements are not so apparent as they are with, say, a BARC on TV, they probably are right now still guessing what it might be on digital. And everybody else is using their own metrics and trying to come out with some numbers. So I think it's right now in entire industry, the ecosystems, it's to their advantage if you have a common currency where Google, Facebook and all the myriad publishers can all be read together and you're actually able to build a plan using multiple platforms. Right now, as far as video campaigns are concerned, most of the campaigns are TV plus. You hardly have anything which is online video plus TV. It's almost everything where TV, video or digital is a top up. That is the way it's because it's the way it's been contrived at this point in time. If you had a media agnostic measure which captured TV and digital on the same page and across all platforms, you'd see a very, very different TV digital mix. So it beats me as to why people are not embracing it. And everybody is just looking, maybe the top two guys are thinking that it might, right now they have a duopoly, if more people come in, they may lose it. I don't see why, because they're already, both these platforms are incredibly powerful platforms. They'll always find a role in the plan and the entire pie will grow. So if you ask me, it's very myopic thinking amongst those who are not embracing integrated currency.
Sure, a complete agreement with you, Vikram, and again, appreciate your candid speak. And Shuvadip, really, if I could get your view here as a leading advertiser, the fact that, we're not having a common metric, and trust me, we've been having a discussion on the common metric for now several years, but the discussion continues, nothing happens on the metric. And I think it really stems from players who do not want to open up to that because it's clearly will be disadvantaged.
I think Vikram absolutely pointed out to the true fact that it's going to grow the pie. And it probably is one of the reasons why it is going to impede one of those probable situations where maybe digital spend is going to overtake spends on television. In fact, it's not one against the other, but it's about which is more cost effective, which is more effective from a brand or a business perspective, right? And it's just not about the two actually, Sonali. In fact, it's also the third. And in this case, it's those people who are at the bottom of the funnel, closer to the purchase cycle. And e-commerce is a big platform and it's a growing platform where you're going to spend your money from a media targeting standpoint. And that's also a walled garden. That's also a closed door. That's also something which does not allow you data to move. And I think we've seen enough of indices and never actual true numbers. There is no flow back of information. Looking at from, and playing a devil's advocate, looking at from their point of view, it could be protecting their turf. But I think time has come for some of those barriers to break.
Great. So let me ask the tough question here, and Anil, this is to you. I hope you can take it on your chin. If you're in agreement with Shuvadip, Vikram and Dolly, that we do need a common metric, and this conversation has been going on for so long now, would you as advertisers, as leading advertisers, be able to tell publishers who are hesitant to actually come on board in terms of a common metric and say, if you don't provide us a common metric, we do not want to advertise on your platform anymore?
Sonali, I think we've been discussing this, as everybody is saying. We have been discussing this in these common forums and have been attempting to get everybody onto the table to discuss. So I think the attempts are constantly on. I think I don't think antagonizing or taking an antagonistic position is necessarily going to help. I think what's going to help is a collaborative approach, and as everybody is saying, it definitely seems like a win-win. So I think if there is a win-win, I think as long as we're all able to align. I think the reason why, I think we were close to getting somewhere same time last year, and the reason it fell through was the emergence of new platforms. And again, the nature of measuring an input that a brand gives in different platforms is so different. And every time you have a new platform where your ability to measure and have a common measure is so difficult that again discussions fall through. And we know which platforms were these last year, because of which the discussions fell through. My only concern is that because the ecosystem, especially the digital ecosystem, is so dynamic, and now with more and more forward, backward integrations going on, and pretty much for want of a better word, incestuous relationships coming up because of the nature of investments coming into some of these platforms.
I'll let you have the last word, Dolly, in terms of how you look at this panning out in the future, and of course, through the research that you've done, the comprehensive research, your 2-3 headline findings very quickly to leave us with some food for thought.
I believe that there has been a significant smoothening. That today, at least, there is a conversation which is again reviving, in terms of what is the best that can be done to make cross-media ad measurement a possibility for the industry. Okay, so that conversation is happening. I'm also very sensitive to the point which really Anil put on the table, which is around investments. Listen, it's one thing to say that we all want measurement and we want best of the measurement, right? But especially around this time, budgets are stretched. Cross-media measurement will require investments of a certain degree, and we are quite sensitive to that, and therefore we are also cognizant that the kind of solutions that we are thinking of, should be in accordance with what could possibly be available on the table. So that's my take on cross-media ad measurement. I wouldn't say that at this point of time there is any holding back from Big Two in terms of coming on remit on cross-media ad measurement. I would, however, like to say that obviously there are going to be discussions around what standards you use for viewability. Are you really going to be counting one view or 1 second as viewability, or are you going to be counting 5 seconds as viewability? We will need to come to a common ground on that. And again, that is not going to be easy. I would say that advertisers will really have to play a big role in pushing for the cross-media ad measurement agenda, because our experience has really been that whenever we have seen advertiser push happening, things have really moved well on the measurement front. So that's one. The second point also is that digital is meant to be for sharper targeting, right? And of course, advertisers love to go behind sharper audiences, right? And they are defined through intent and behavior and all of that. However, what we've seen is that people often taking an easy way out there, which is that very broad target groups being used when it comes to measurement, because when you tend to use a broad target group, the chances are that you will land with a better number for your on target performance. So that's second. So digital should really be pushed for a sharper sharper targeting. It is being used for sharper targeting, so measurement should also take into account that sensitivity.
With that, I have to wrap up the show. Thank you so much, Dolly, Vikram, Anil, and Shuvadip. I think some really plain speak has come out in this conversation, and hopefully the next time we speak, we'd see the ball rolling, and there would be some movement on this route for measurement. Thank you so much once again. Thank you for joining us on Brand Equity.